Good to see you all here. Um, did you have a great weekend? Give me a thumbs up if you did. If so, so. Yeah, you did. Excellent. I did too. I had all these wonderful intentions to do a lot. I was on a high achievement mode, and then I actually had a relaxing Saturday. It was nice. It was very nice. Okay, good to see a few more people have joined us. Fantastic. We're going to kick off into, sorry, there was no music to, pump you up at 6 a.m. in the morning. If that's the time for you, we'll get that fixed. I know it feels like you come into a cone of silence. Um, so let me share with you what we have in store for you today. Uh, just while we have our remaining people come and join us on the call. So I am just sharing my whole screen there. So we are focusing on high performing teams. Woohoo! We are all into high performance and team dynamics, what that means at a team level to achieve the company's objectives, and then all the way through to how individual performance is a part of that as well. But today is going to be very, very team centric. I have just popped this in here again. So last week we finished off this piece, value and leverage. And so now we're moving here into the team dynamics, trust and flow. We are going to be looking at team rhythm, ways to what the team rhythm actually is. What does it mean for a team to be in rhythm with each other, in sync with each other? And we're going to look at different ways that we also can measure the trust and flow, because a lot of these things start becoming extremely subjective. You ask one person, is your team high performing? And they might say, yes, absolutely. And you ask someone else, they're like, no, not really at all, right? So it's all starting to get into subjective territory here, which means your facilitation skills need to be sharp as well, because there will be differing of opinions, and you need to know when to work through those, when to just let them be, and let the exercises and the teachings that you're going to do kind of bring to the forefront the awareness that everyone needs. So this is what we're diving into today. Let me stop sharing. I would love to hear from everybody on the call. What is it when you think about a high-performing team and you think about this either in your business or as your role of a consultant? What is it that excites you about this topic?
Do we speak or type or
Um,
if we're
if you want
speaking
to
then
speak, Stephen, absolutely.
sure it's a sense of group achievement when you deliver something. So for me it's
Hmm.
all about it actually reminds me, I think of one of the questions in the Genius test or something when it says about what do you like about a project best or something. So yeah, for me it's definitely when you actually the thing's done, it's out there, and we've all kind of worked together, and it's done. Customers happy.
Great. So that high performance all the way through to to achievement, not just, maybe in the early stages of something and then it peters off. I think that's a big thing with high performance is the sustainability of it as well. Some teams come out guns blazing and then fall apart at either a challenge or just when things require endurance as well. And you'll see different personalities that kind of lead the way. Okay, Ross has said productivity that leaves people feeling better and closer afterwards, more so than before. Yeah, nice. So you're seeing, like, is that a main driver that you want to focus on with your clients, Ross, that they will increase productivity by working with you and understanding these high performance
Yeah, for
tools?
me, it's a bit of a combination because I suppose it's something that I see a fair bit in the South African context as well, where people can be forced to be productive and they can increase productivity, but they feel worse afterwards. It becomes more grind than anything else. And so it's productivity, but with a relational component where people are in the flow, but also working together, where the relationships are better off afterward than they were before. So it's a relational and a productivity component for me.
Nice, nice. And how do you deal with, like, in Bali, we say there's Bali time, right? Where it's like, things will take the time that they take. And then if you go to Fiji, it's like there's Fiji time, which is even slower than Bali time. And then having spent so much time in Africa, there's Africa time as well, for sure.
It causes some conflict here because especially in South Africa because it's as multicultural as it is, not every culture has that perspective. So just watching people come together before even anything gets done, you can already see the hair stands up on the back of the neck sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to open up and share?
Good morning, everyone from
Morning.
Stockholm. Well, I mean, to me, who have been working very long time in my life in the HR industry, to me, high performing team is the heartbeats in every business, no matter whether it's in a big organization or whether it's, like couple running a small enterprise together and entrepreneurship together. So it's kind of the heartbeat because when the team is in sync, everything in the business flows because harmony produces positive energy and that attracts the right kind of clients as well. So when the team is in flow, it attracts revenue. And also, to me personally, one of my life mission is actually to help people be on the right place in their lives, and that was the reason why I worked within HR. So to me personally, to help team to become more aligned and in more sync, it actually helps me to help other people to feel that they are in the right place, which is kind of part of my life purpose. So that was my long answer to that.
Nice, nice. Thanks, Linda. And there's a bunch of good comments here. Making something possible together that you could not do. So that excites you. Bally, is that in the facilitation side? Like you help others to achieve this through your facilitation?
Morning, everyone. I would say a combination of that they do with me there, or actually they go away and do it together. Um, and I love so Alinda's take on it because I was writing it down. It really matters that they work together well. However, that hasn't always been my focus. So the relationship part, because normally it's about high performance. I want to get some of those. I want those results at the end of the day. It sounds a bit harsh, but that's how I've led it before. Maybe and that's not really aligned with where I go with things most of the time. But I'd like them to work better together. But I want them to get more done together as opposed to being on their own. That's how I took it. But it is early Monday morning, so bear with me.
Okay, got it. Um, Beautiful. What else have we got here? Uh, Operate automatically. Okay, yep. Go do your things on your own. Um, yeah, there's different degrees of high performance as well, right? Anything worth doing is worth doing well. Yeah, I agree. Always striving for excellence. People often will comment to me that, that I have a very high level of excellence expected. I'm like, yeah, actually I do, and I'm okay with that. But I also am extremely patient when it comes to training people. If they're willing to give it their best and keep growing and learning, I actually have all the patience in the world. When people want to start projecting excuses and blame and not wanting to, then for me, I'm like, I do lose patience. And then I am about, okay, how do we just find the position where you are able to stay in your value and not push that individual? Or when is it time to exit stage left, right? So it's either find where they are contributing in their level of value and be okay with that, or move them elsewhere or move them on. Okay. All right. Lots of great comments there. Let's crack into what actually is a high performing team. Now, this is also an exercise that you do in your workshops, right? So you can position this as quite a length, like a whole segment. You could do like a full 90 minutes on it, or 60 to 90 minutes on it, or you could just do it as a bit of a burst of an exercise that maybe takes half an hour to get people aligned to what is a high performing team, so they're starting to engage in that type of thinking when you start to go into the next type of activity. So it depends on what you're doing. Are you kind of educational for the whole seminar workshop, or are you then going to have them say after this exercise? Great to do if you are maybe embedding also some culture stuff, like if you want to put in what is the culture, if you want to come back to what is the enterprise promise of our company, great to do this exercise first, and you'll see why it will make sense once we go through this as well. But prior to kind of unpacking things where you're really requiring team to be on the same page, right? I don't want to give too much away. So we'll revisit this at the end. You can think about, oh yeah, I would do this before X, Y, Z. So there are two parts to this. We'll go through the first part, and then we will have a look at what the second part actually is and how you can facilitate that. So on the Miro board, excuse me, have we got everyone here today? Just want to check, are we missing anyone? No, I think we're all here. Fabulous. So Aditi, can you keep our Taiwan group together, and then can you split our remaining 5 Zooms to keep Michael and Linda clearly together? So we just need 3 people in each, right? Up to you. Doesn't matter who today. So everyone, we're about to go in and do this exercise. Now, when you are facilitating it in a group, again, the whole context is to really get people to agree on and truly like start putting critical thought into what is a high performing team, rather than it just being a cliche line that is thrown around and projections and that can come with it. It's like, no, we're going to actually define what a high performing team means, not just theoretically, but they'll go a step further and go, this is what it means to us in our company. Okay, so each company might have a slightly different nuance, or maybe not a different nuance, but they might have an area, a specific part of the definition that's kind of underscored and exclamation marked a little bit more for them than others, right? It's like this is the one that really sings true to us and we want to double down on as well. So what you normally do here is split your groups into smaller groups of 2 to 4 people. Again, this is all in the facilitation guide, but 2 to 4 people so you can still move through the exercise quickly. I normally like to do things in a minimum of 3 personally, because if you just have 2, sometimes what happens is 2 people will go, okay, well, we're kind of done. Yeah, we're done. All right, we're done. Versus a third person, there's more of a chance that they will keep going. There's more to talk about and there's more to be added, and someone will go, well, hang on, what about this? So 3 is kind of the magic number. I have done this up to 5 people in a group before. Just be mindful, you need to allow a little more time, right? But if you've got a team that is whipping through the exercises quite well, by all means, put 5 in a group, get some punchy answers there and keep moving. So you just got to think on your feet, what's the ideal number? Okay, here's what we're going to do. On the Miro board, Aditi, if you can drop that link in, and if you all can find underneath, I haven't got it written as day 5. I will copy that down. But if you scroll down on the left, you will see day 4. Now you should see day 5, and there is high performing teams here. Right, so all of that's at the top. If you scroll down, and you will find high performing teams. Okay. Each group, if you can pick a board for ease, let's Taiwan team give you board 1. And then board 2 and 3, well, depending on who Aditi has you with, you can jump in here. You are going to, here's what the exercise is going to be. Okay, I'll stop sharing this now that you all have your board. Okay. What I want you to decide as a team once you get into your breakout room is when you look at different companies or teams, like it doesn't have to just be a business, a company, maybe it's a sporting team or an arts team or so forth. Who is it that you see is high performing? And what are some of the factors, the common factors that you see they have? You might even compare, okay, well, I'm thinking of these 2 teams. These are some common factors, but we want you to really pick an example, right? So in the early stages, you're going to discuss. Ross might say, well, I think this is a high performing team. Clara might say, I think this is a high performing team. Discuss what some of the qualities are that are common in those. Then you're going to pick a specific example, right? And again, from any domain, can be business, sports, culture, performing arts. And I want you, as your group of 3 people, to start putting on a sticky note what are some of these common factors that you see represent why they are a high performing team. Okay, so what are the common factors, the common traits that represent why they are a high performing team? Once you've done that, I want you to then look at those characteristics that you've put up there and just, circle or put a mark on them or change the color of the note to what characteristics can also be common for a non-high performing team. So you may have listed a bunch of characteristics that make up this high performing teams. And then it's like, this one can also exist in a non-high performing team. Okay. And what I would do is kind of take those out, right? But just leave them on your chart for now. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 15 minutes, actually. I'm going to do the 15 minutes. If you're finished prior, we'll come back in. So in your group of 3, you're going to have these discussions and then start. What I would do is probably put sticky notes up of your thoughts, and then before time is up and you are due to come back in, you need to choose, like I would put all of that onto one bigger sticky note. So you've got notes here, you've got notes there, you've got notes there, and then you want to go, these are the ones that we've decided make up are common as a high performing team, and you're going to present it when you come back. So you need to decide, are you going to present it together, or is just one person going to present it? Remember, the exercise is about a high performing team. Hint, not necessarily just high performing individuals. So, Aditi, are we good with breakout rooms? Cool.
Can I ask a question?
I was just, yeah, sure.
So you are going to ask us to discuss what kind of high performance team we are going to discuss too?
Yeah. First of
We
all,
need-
put your ideas forward as to different high performing teams, and then you will decide together which
No.
one you
Hmm.
want to use and go deeper into and compile, use them as an inspiration to compile what you see the characteristics are of a high performing team.
So only need one?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll be presenting back why you see this team is high performing,
Hmm.
and then what you gleaned from that to be a common set of factors and characteristics for high performing teams overall.
Hmm.
Right?
Okay.
Cool.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I will pop around as well in case anyone gets a little lost. Aditi, if you can make me co-host, maybe now before the rooms go in. Okay, we'll see you in 15 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So I have put Michael, Linda, and Ross in one room, and then Bailey, Clara, and Stephen in one. I think we did not do
Can
that.
you just pause recording, Aditi? Okay, high performers, we're back. 15 minutes goes fast, right? Now, when you are in, I rarely run it longer than 15 minutes. And actually, sometimes we will do this and then get people to present inside of that 15 minutes as well. It depends how many groups you have and how familiar they are with each other as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to end up unpacking some universal common traits across high performing teams. And to start with, we're going to hear from each of you, well, each of the teams. So hopefully you have nominated how you're presenting it, or you've discussed how you're presenting it. And you can share your screen as well. Well, actually, I can share the screen if you like, just so it's easy for everyone. Let me get that ready. Is there a team that would like to go first? I can't remember who Aditi had in with who. I think, was it
Why not?
Michael?
I don't mind going.
Okay. All right, let me share the screen.
Get the pain out of the way.
So is it just you, Stephen, or is your
No,
whole
I'll
team?
just introduce it and then I'll let Bally and Clara speak. I just wanted to say that what I did first of all, I thought we'll leverage the tools that everyone will use these days, and I asked ChatGPT to list out the top 10 characteristics of high performing teams, and then we went through, and then what happened is, I let everyone kind of pick their kind of top ones, and then even Bally we then ended up discussing one that we couldn't really work out a characteristic of or how to write it down, but then that's it. So these are our top ones we came up with, and perhaps the others will go through. I was more on, as I said, I'm more about the results. So I came up with clear purpose and goals, and the results orientation.
Okay, so who's the team that you were?
Sorry, with Bally and Clara.
No, you were choosing a team, like an actual team, like it would be an organization or a sporting team or a cultural
Oh right,
team.
well I was sorry, I already had it in my head that we were going from the first web project. I was just using as an example. It's the first web project I delivered, which was back in 2001, which was the first ever online car configurator for Volkswagen. So before that, you used to order brochures online, but now you can go and choose the color of the car and the model and all this lot. So that's what we were going from.
So is
Right.
was that just your answers, or did everyone go, you're actually?
I'm going to say that that's what we were. I'm going to say that that's what we were. I don't know. To be honest, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing my best. I think we forgot that bit. I'll be honest.
Okay.
But that's what I was going from in my mind, and I think we didn't. I mean, maybe the others were thinking of a particular project. I don't know.
Well, let's hear, because there's a lot of eyes in that. So let's open up to the rest of your team. And because what I'd love to hear is
But
presentation.
just one note
to
though. I'm just going to note here. I've been ostracized for satiety for decades, so I've mostly worked on my own. So I'm not used to working in the teams bit.
Yeah.
It does pretty well though.
Yeah. New
initially I-
neurology opening up, right? And at 6 a.m. in the morning. Oh my word.
Yeah, you picked the three 6 o'clockers together. So
Cool. All right, Clara.
anyway, so to start with, I was thinking about an orchestra because I always think about an orchestra when I think about a team, even in the context of a company. But then I sort of played along with Stephen because it's more concrete. And I think the first one for me is trust and mutual respect, and then for the group as well, because I think we sort of get the trust and respect to actually sort of this exercise show it to sort of contribute and say what we thought were the characteristics. And I think it went quite well for 6 o'clock in the morning. And there goes the open and effective communication and the clear purpose and goal that you provided for us. And then the last one when you popped in that we were talking about was something that ChatGPT didn't mention, which was the time-bound integrity, because there has to be a component of time there, because if no team is effective if they don't have a sense of timing as to what they're doing. When has it got to be ready by, because just the purpose is if it's not put in a time context doesn't mean anything. And I'll leave the rest for Bally to explain.
I just want to say they did an amazing job because I was thrown at the internet. So That wasn't great. Um, when we started working on this, there's so many pieces to each and every single one because they are different for various teams, in my experience anyway. So I was also focusing a little bit. A lot of this has been mentioned, but also the we've got the role, but the responsibility of the task. So if we can clarify that, yeah, somebody who's character of being succinct and clear. So, and yeah, that's like we said, all of us together. But I was whizzed out, so performance was a bit low on my end because of my Wi-Fi. So apologies, team. But you did amazing.
Okay. All righty. Thank you for going first, team. Great effort there. So I'm going to come over to Ross, Michael. Well, am I going left or right? I'll just go right here. So this team, who is this?
Yep, that's us.
Okay, great. Let's hear you guys. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to present.
Can I just say Michael and Linda are awesome, and we got straight into a conversation about work experience and stuff like that. I don't even think we identified a solid team. We were just throwing experiences and teams around. But yeah, we were talking about in the work context where we're dealing with the teams that we worked with, but I also mentioned the Springboks to deliberately get out that box. And we just put down the traits. I just put down the traits on the board there that we discussed from both sides. And then we got into a conversation around what some of the opposites look like, and what that actually means at deeper levels, which was a very fun conversation. So we didn't really get to finding what we agree on. What you see there on the board is just traits from both sides that we feel agree, and I certainly agree with everything they've said. So it was great to see that.
Okay.
Michael,
Is
and I don't know if you
anyone
have
else
anything to add.
beginning?
Well, I agree with the Ross. We had a great say collaboration. Get our heads going in the morning to it. I think this is applicable both in sports, but also in the organizations than doing it. So, do you want to go over each of the post-its or?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd love to hear is why you feel what is on the post-it is a key characteristic of high-performing teams.
Okay, well, I mean, everything when it comes to high performing team, it's about a collectiveness. It's about kind of they have created a well functioning community, and to a community to work, it needs trust, because everything is based on trust. And if you feel a team feels trust, they trust each other, and they also feel kind of a safety. And from trust and safety, and those two are very highly related, so they kind of leverage each other's. And if a team feels trust and safety in each other, and they start, the solution-oriented communication, and they become more creative. So everything is kind of based in trust and safety, if I remember our discussion right. So, and what is really interesting is also that it also benefits the curiosity and finding new solutions. And the willingness, it also leverage the willingness to help each other out, and everyone acknowledge each other and understand each other's values, and they have respect for each other's roles and understand the reason why everyone should contribute. So it's kind of
Okay. Got it. So let me just ask you all in your group, are there any of these characteristics that can be present in a team that is not high performing?
Yeah, well, they can focus on the wrong things.
We discussed the joint mission thing. Because the joint mission in a high performing team is they do have a joint mission to kind of contribute and do that. But as well in a non-performing team, they can have a joint mission to destroy things. No, but the negativity. So focusing on the joint mission to focus on the bad things and things that could go wrong and the problems and
So maybe that I hear what you're saying, and I think the way I'd classify that is they are no longer linked to the company's mission and the team's mission, but they're essentially creating a coup, a covert mission to completely destabilize and destroy the good fight, the good mission, right? So yeah. So if we're gonna kind of say, can it be present? I would say it's not. They've actually gone and created their own thing. But yeah, I get it. They can also be focused on the wrong thing. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And just coming back to Bally, Stephen, and Clara, is there any on here that you would say can also be present in a non-high performing team?
I personally think that the mutual respect component is something that would be part of course, we would have respect, but to the level of being trusted to do something is for me a real kind of essence of what high performance would mean, and also that inner and how we measure that, but that kind of inner drive to kind of focus on that common goal is going to be critical.
So just to be clear, you're saying that mutual respect can be present in a non-performing team as well? Or
Well,
that was the question, right? Which one of these traits can
yeah,
also be present in a non-performing team? Just confirm me if that's what you're saying there.
I think the trust component is the big one here.
So just to answer my question,
Yeah,
can it be present in a non-performing team? A non-high performing team?
it can, but not to that level. But yes.
Okay. All right. Yes, and to different degrees. Okay. Okay. Does everyone else think? Can trust be present in a non-performing team? I know I'm asking that as like absolute values, right? And what Bally's saying is she maybe really wants to say no, I think.
Well, there's
Just-
different types of trust for me. It's the sort of trust that, like you trust the drinking buddies, but not when it comes to the real world, like work. But I'd say that maybe the results orientation is the one that could be present in non-performing teams, because they could go out on a tangent and go after results that are not the results that the team needs or the company needs.
Yeah, so it could be that they have the right intention, they've got the right heart about it, but it's not necessarily either the right skill set or competency or different factors influencing that being executed at the level that's needed. Is that kind of the distinction you're making, Clara?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Again, so subjective, right? Whew. Okay, let's come over to Team Taiwan.
Hi, we are in Taiwan. Okay,
Tina
so
is Team Taiwan.
yes, I'm Team Taiwan. So we discussed basic F1, the movie. Yeah, so because four of us all watched the movie, and then according to that, we find out that like everybody has a line goals, the same target, and then they want to achieve the goals at each stage. And also when the team, they will have a focus when the team wins, then everybody wins. And also they will have a clear role. They have a clear role defined. Let everybody know what should they do in different group, different job. And also everyone in that group will do the contribute. They are willing to contribute. And then they also will be make a fully preparation for their goals. And also they are not just doing they are not just finish the thing, but they want to do it they want to do it the best. And then everybody is getting involved, not just an observer. So for us, there will be the high performing teams the point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Great. When I love that movie too. I've watched it. And when you were saying like each person knows their role,
yes.
the scene is, there's one person on the front right wheel doing this one thing, and there's 15 other people, when the car comes into the pit. No one is doing multiple things. They're precision doing one thing. And then there might be someone, doing a particular thing on the control room and so forth. But yes, it's very clear that individuals have their role and how it's a contribution to the team as a whole. Yeah. Great. Great to pick out that Formula One team. Is there any other examples that you guys discussed, like the specifics of, when a Formula One team is, not just getting things done, but getting them done well, or, I don't know.
Yeah, we're just focusing on the movie because we are too excited about, Brad Pitt, too handsome. That's why we cannot think about, because we just think about most of the group, like a high performing group, they have the same point, like we just put on the sticker.
Mm-hmm.
Their sports or even our team. So
Okay.
yes.
All right. And are there any on here that you would say can exist in a non-high performing team?
Yes, we think like probably they will have the same goal, but into the wrong direction. And then also everybody probably can have a trust, but not just do the contribute.
Okay. So thank you, Tina. So this is a fascinating exercise, right? When you are facilitating it to a group, that your objective is you've gone into a company, they're paying you big money to help get either their already high performing team to the next level, or to shake things up a little bit in the team that's maybe got some faltering happening in their performance. So you yourself need to have precision, clarity. There's a couple of things that stood out to me in some of the responses and the answers. I'm going to open up to all of you to give, or any of you to give your observation first. And please do it with your facilitator cap on. There is no you are wrong when you said X. I'd love to hear how you will go. This was an observation, and how you actually share that observation. Maybe it's yourself, right? But by hearing your teams, yourself, and others, what were some observations? Maybe it's some points that you're like, oh, how do you actually answer that? I'm just going to open it up first.
I was quite aware that when I said I'm used to working alone, it's kind of weird because it's a word, but it's not. I work with thousands of other people, but we're not in that kind of proprietary close-knit thing. We're all in different places, but we clearly know our roles. And I was trying to think on your previous question about performance, because as the Drupal community grew, it became more corporate, and then you had to have like release dates. Before it was like, yeah, we want to get all this functionality out, but then as soon as business came into it, they said, yeah, but we need to know when. And it's like, but we're tech people, it'd be ready when it's ready. And they're just like, nope, we can't deal with that. And I was thinking, does that actually change any of the dynamics of what you were talking about? And actually it didn't. I didn't see the words change. I was expecting to see something like any one of them different, because you got different purposes. Then you go, right, okay, but no, they didn't. So I was just putting that out as a point of interest.
Okay,
Because I thought the
cool.
dynamics are very different in an open source world where you've got like thousands of contributors and you've all got to hit this release date now. And is that different? And I don't think it is.
Okay. Well, either that was a wonderful experience to be in, because I have seen some tech companies where they don't hit the release dates, and the reasons why have actually been, some of these things that are on here, like not aligned to the same goal and so forth. So it sounds like you guys were all still very aligned. You knew precisely what needed to happen.
I think there's still a core, even though it's grown from, I was like member 30,000, now there's like millions of people in it. I think the core is you've all got this shared purpose. We're all benefiting because everyone else is doing their own bit, so if we hit, and sure, some things don't hit release dates and that, but like that Volkswagen thing I was saying, it's like there's some bits that, okay, well, they'll have to go in the next release.
Yeah.
So initially there's this kind of fear of, oh, the businesses are taking over, they need to do, but actually it's worked out well. The kind of fact that we're it is actually a bit more kind of professional in a way, because, you're supporting 200 governments, and one in eight of the top 10,000 websites work on it. So you got a lot of responsibility there. And
Yeah.
after the initial kind of changeover period, it did kind of, I mean, sure, the community changed. It's not quite as fun and lounging around as it was
Got it.
initially, but
Okay.
no, those traits
Excellent.
didn't actually change much.
Thank you, Stephen. Got it. Others? What would you share as an observation?
Excuse me, sorry, I don't fully understand what should we answer about? Can you repeat the question again?
So, in doing that exercise and hearing your own team's expression, other teams' expression, what else? You've got your facilitator hat on now. What are some observations? Maybe things that are tripping people up, or I'm just leaving it very open. What have you observed in this activity so far?
Okay, thank you.
Donna, I think for me, the observation is how blurry these things can be, because they may have said the same thing previously as a facilitator, that my job is to see what's going to be different this time round. Like, how are they going to measure that success and excellence this time? So that's kind of come up. And what is the task, right? So it can vary. So how long is the string? So what are we actually talking about? Because are we getting results? Are we leading up to that? So being really specific on that, that's what I would be honing in on. So this has been, thank you for this.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Bally. So just some observations from my side before I go into how we would summarize what the key common factors are. And the reason I want to introduce these now is because in a lot of the expressions, I think it's because you're all very kind, actually. I think it's where we're saying, yeah, trust can exist, Bally, if I can use that as an example, where you were like, well, yes, trust can exist in a high performing and in a non-high performing. And someone said, Yes, well, we can have the goals, shared vision of the goals, and that exists. But, you know, then maybe not to different degrees. It's like all of that gets wishy-washy, right? And your participants will either stay wishy-washy or take advantage of it as well, right? So if I'm being honest, I would say, can trust be, if trust is lost, I think that's where the conversations were going, right? Like if trust is not there, can it be high performing as well? Again, subjective, but sure. If it's very mechanical and just, you know, automated and get the job done, tick those boxes. Can trust exist in a non-high performing team? I would question it, right? Because at points along the execution of the thing, right? The mission. If people are, I'm not going to say it absolutely is not there, not at all, because you can, to say it's absolutely not there means that there's only 100% mission success rate. 99% means failure, which is not the truth, right? Can high performing teams lose the thing that they're competing with? Yeah, right. So a Formula One team can be high performing and lose. Means that they didn't outperform others, or maybe there was a glitch, there was an area that needs improving. The concept here is that the high perform, if they trust each other to get back on track, they trust each other to inquire into that further, they trust each other to learn, grow, and improve, then yes, that they can, you know, still fail and be high performing. Now, there might be some things where it's life or death, right? And performance is, what I'm wanting to say is success and failure is somewhat different to high performance. There's a time when they can overlap, right? If we never, ever win, it's like, yeah, maybe we weren't high performing enough on a mission critical thing, but it doesn't mean there still wasn't a high performing team. That would be like saying every team in an elite sport is a failure unless they win the trophy. Some of them might feel like that, right? So I just wanted to highlight, when conversations get tricky about those things, you might want to unpack them a little bit more, because ambiguity can create confusion for individuals. Definitely reiterate that 100% success rate is not necessarily a defining factor of high performing team. And also, I think the biggest observation here is that you can see this exercise is easier when you have an exact company or sporting team that you are referencing. Because the purpose of this exercise is, yes, to speak about the common factors in a high performing team, but what was happening, it was anchoring too much on your past experiences and generalization, versus when you pick a high performing team, you discuss examples of them, you pick them that everybody knows, so it's kind of there in the public, then you can, the exercise will actually work a lot easier, and more collective, right? More as a team. So if you're in person and you're walking around and you see, you can kind of have one ear to those conversations, course correct it quickly. Yeah. You can say to the group, hey guys, remember, pick a team that you all know, and so then you can draw examples. Then when presentations are happening, they might be saying Cirque du Soleil. Yes, high performance as the Cirque du Soleil means that they have high trust when they are throwing each other from a bar and they've got to catch them. Like, there's absolute high trust that would be present. There would also be continued practice in there. So if people continue on, again, just stop the entire room and say, okay, everyone, just, look at me, listen for a moment. Just want to reset this exercise. This is the way that this is what I want you to focus on. So you can pull things back into alignment there. Does that make sense? Cool. So here are the 4 ways that we describe a high-performing team. And you can all reflect if these are on yours or not. So some common factors that we see, first of all, is shared purpose, vision, and goal. A lot of you had that, right? I think everybody had a form of a common goal, a shared goal. You've expressed it as shared visions as well. If we look at how does this link to the wealth dynamic square, which is at the core of everything we're talking about here, it's the why element. So it's that water element. Why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we working so hard towards achieving this outcome? And then what actually is the outcome, right? So it's not only a shared purpose and a shared visual of that goal to the point where every member in the team, so let's say a Formula One team, they would be able to visualize standing on the podium winning. They'd be able to visualize getting the checkered flag. They would be able to visualize actually racing the entire race, every corner, every straight, every pit stop, every scenario. It can be absolutely visualized as to how it's happening, right? High performance. You can only do that when you have practiced. When you have shared, the outcome with specific intent as well. So really, really important, this one. Number 2, we say it's complementary. I can't even spell. Complementarity and collaboration. Let's put that in simple terms. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone plays to their strengths. There is the value and leverage. So not only does everyone know their role and play to their strengths, but you make sure you've got the right roles on the team. Yeah, you can't have a high-performing Formula One team if there is no one, attending to the right front wheel when it's tire change time, or if there is not actually someone in the leadership team that is keeping the drivers in check, keeping them focused. Cirque du Soleil, if there is one role missing, it can jeopardize the entire performance, right? So, making sure that the roles are shared across people, that they also have the capacity and the capability to do them. So that is really, really important, to make sure the ball, as an analogy, gets passed to the right person who is best positioned to actually play whatever that move is, right? So there's not only a static everyone on paper is right, but in practice, we are in flow, we are in sync with each other as well. I think most of you did say that. You had like teamwork, you had roles. Each person knows their responsibilities, role clarity. Maybe they're in like honed talent. Not necessarily there's every role needed, but I think in essence we're all getting that. The third one that we would third major factor that we would say is mindset toward success and collaboration. Mindset is absolutely critical. Yeah, if someone is actually the movie, F1 movie again, Team Taiwan. When was there an example of mindset, and I can think of a few, mindset towards success was not at its optimal and it had a big impact on the team?
So you want me to share which scene?
Yeah, so we can draw a who here has also seen the F1, or is it just me and the Taiwan team?
I think in the movie, at the end of the scene, that Brad Pitt with the same goal with the younger driver, I forgot his name, and then they have the same mindset. They want to win, no matter who, and then all the team had the same goal, and then they want to try their best to help no matter who to get the goal. So I think the mindset for them is really important.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Tina. So my expression would be, when was the mindset not optimal and what impact did it have? Was in that movie in particular, and I'm sure you can all relate this to any F1 racing team. There's two drivers, right? There's a experienced old dog driver that comes back in, and there's a younger up and coming driver who is very jealous of the other driver coming in. There's a point in the movie where well, let's just say Brad Pitt, it was him, his character, I too can't remember the name, was very focused on helping the other guy win, to the point where he was setting up incidences on the track so that his teammate would come through and actually win. The other guy, the younger driver, didn't have that mindset. He had the mindset of, I'm the underdog, I've got to fight my way, I've got to be better than this guy, he's out to get me. So his mindset was very negative in it. He couldn't see that he was actually trying to help him. And what happened is advice was given, wait, don't overtake somebody until you get on this straight. And the young driver was like, no, I'm going to like go for it now. I'm not waiting. And he went for it and he ended up crashing. Sorry if you haven't seen this, and being in hospital, right? And so that was a defining moment of where mindset came into play. But also, I would say communication was missing. It wasn't a collaborative approach. So one guy knew this was my game plan, that they were fine on the bigger mission, but this is my game plan for this actual race. Didn't communicate it to anybody. Everybody was wondering what on earth was he doing. It was for the greater good, but it wasn't communicated. So it's really fascinating to see someone can have the right intention and the right purpose, but the impact of not communicating it clearly with your team, maybe because trust is not there, maybe because you're wanting to be the hero, whatever the story is, can have consequences that are massive, right? So mindset towards success and collaboration works powerfully when it's there, and disastrously at times when it's not. I'll give you the final one, then I want to open up to all of you. So the fourth one that we would say is practicing and performing together. This is where theory gets experienced, right? What is the rhythm? How do we not just talk about having a rhythm, but we actually are setting the rhythm? We are in the rhythm. How to synchronize with each other, how to learn from mistakes, how to plan for improvement, how to plan for the goal and the outcomes. So if we're simplifying these down, shared purpose and vision and goal, being complementary and collaborative, having the right mindset towards success, and again, teamwork and collaboration, and practicing and performing together. That is what we have said, the 4 common factors of a high-performing team. So at this point, you would normally work with your groups and ask them to reflect, in their business, in their team, where are these present and which ones are missing? What is there consistently? What is maybe not so consistent? And get them to look at, if these 4 things were only always present, what difference would it make in their team in terms of the experience that people had and performance overall, and then actually the results as well? So again, if they were only always present in the team, what would that look like? People might say, well, it would feel, or it would look like this, or this would happen. But we want to know that specifically in what they experience, what is it about the performance, and what happens with the results. So coming back to you all, and you're looking at these 4 things here, and perhaps now you're thinking about a particular team or a particular company yourself, right? It's still good to do that at this point. Think about Cirque du Soleil. Think about, a Formula One team. What happens when these things are only always present? I'm now going to open up for some comments as to yourself. What do you think happens? Do you think these 4 things are a good explanation? And how would you explain, sorry, I'm reading and speaking at the same time. How would you say that if all 4 of these are present in the team you're thinking about, things would look differently?
I certainly like the way those traits are laid out, because it's one of the things that stands out quite clearly for me is that it's not necessarily about success or failure with the task at hand. It's just about how well they're collaborating and working that out. And there'll be ups and downs. There'll be times where they gel, there'll be times where they won't, but they're still making progress toward whatever the team's objective is collectively. And it's not entirely on the success factor. one of the things that also stands out for me with that is, I think it was Barry who pointed out earlier about being specific and being clear, is that you can say something that you think is completely clear, but what the other person hears is not necessarily that. And the communication dynamics between any team will be its own sort of monster that you need to acclimatize yourself with when you're working at it. And they would obviously have insights into that you don't necessarily as the facilitator, but you would need to pick up on that quite quickly to help them be more effective.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. Thank you, Ross. Anyone else like to share?
I can share. So I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe.
I love these traits, definitely. It actually shows what a high performing team should focus on. However, what I do miss in it, if I should say so, is kind of the outcome. You know, what does it lead to? Because when you're facilitating this, I have been doing this kind of exercise with our own team actually. And when we discussed these, you know, what to focus on and such. So what they missed then was, what are we aiming for, you know, that perspective. Okay, because everyone knows what these kind of traits would lead to, but however, some kind of how should I explain it, so kind of this is the definition of what you have accomplished or what you have achieved when you have a shared purpose, a vision and goal, so that people know what they're aiming for, what their end result is by doing these things. Does it sound?
So 100%, which is why it's important to actually make sure people have a specific company or team that they're working on, because then you can say, like, here are some examples as well. So, you know, you can actually say, imagine if the, you know, NASA, who's on a mission, did not have that shared purpose, shared vision, shared goal. So you can do imagine it when they do, but imagine when they don't. Your contrast is a powerful thing. Okay, so when they don't have that, what would they potentially experience? Okay, so then when it is there, because again, these are not small answers. They're not, you know, everyone's going to have a different opinion, and you could talk about it for an hour and there'll still be a little slither that you think is missing, right? So it's just to make sure that they're starting to get on the right track, because then it's going to be boom, let's relate this to your team.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, just wanted to point that out. So it's very important to understand, to explain the desired outcome of these traits, so they understand. Or make them reflect, I meant.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and these are great examples. There's plenty more, like we've just said about Formula One. But you know, the Cirque du Soleil is there. It's like, just even that picture says 1,000 words, right? If there's not that everybody knowing their role, if there's not that practice, like even that on the ground can be a disaster. When it is there, there's precision, there's autonomy. You know, I think someone said earlier, a characteristic of high-performing team is autonomy. I mean, to me, autonomy is not about being a robot. Autonomy is you have done it so many times that the subconscious just knows what to do with flow, with ease, with precision. You know, and when you add the consciousness of it on there, even more powerful. I mean, who here on the call can drive their car, if you drive a car, from home to, you know, the shopping center, and sometimes not even remember, you know, that you went over that bridge or through that tunnel, or you know, past this road that had lots of construction or something on it. You can just go into subconscious, right? And if you're female, you can probably put your lipstick on at the same time while you're doing that. So our subconscious can drive that route because it's done it so many times. Yeah, high-performing teams have done things so many times that it can feel somewhat automated. But when we're talking about the human performance in it, it's just natural. There's that synchronicity is there. Yeah. Yes, mastery, Belly, absolutely. Let me come back to sharing my screen.
I've got an observation from these 4 things. In two of them, where it says practicing and performing together. So when I went to my first big open source event, they were all sitting around on desks doing work, and I was like, what are they doing? Because the only experience I'd had of like computer events before that, or trade events, is where you're going and getting free stuff and you're loading yourself up and having fun. But I didn't realize that was really their regular team meetings. So once every 6 months they all kind of got together, because you don't really meet the people you're working with in real life. And I realized these were the team meetings. And that was and that goes into the kind of rhythm stuff there as well. But also on the number 2, the complementarity and collaboration, this is one of the key areas that I want to introduce into the open source world. Is they've got they take, for example, the Drupal thing, which is the largest open source project in terms of contributors. It's got like 8,000 individual and 1,000 companies, organizations. But they don't know anything about like wealth dynamics and talent dynamics. And I think I see a lot of issues when people are collaborating, that if they knew what their natural talent was, that would make it, completely different and a lot smoother as well. So I think there's
100%.
Noting that.
Look at how many, look at the opportunities out there in the world. So this little thing here actually has a few more points on it, like the purpose, shared why, goal and promise, the position. If you're going to relate this specifically back to the square, right? It's like we all know our position on the square. Every high-performing team actually has someone covering all aspects of the square as well. Even if you go back to saying Cirque du Soleil, if they or the sporting team F1, if there's not somebody who's in finance, then how are they going to make sure they've got the right equipment, that they can pay everyone, that they've got the right members on the team? It's not just about the final act or the celebrity actors in it. It's every single position on the square that's important for that to happen. Now, you might, if you're looking at a team and it's a sales team, right? You might go, we don't need metal in our team. We need Blaze. That's fine. But at some point, they will need that creative energy to go, what are we actually selling? Because without the clarity of the purpose and the product and the mission, then that sales team can risk selling ice to Eskimos. The actual delivery of it and the purposeful fit needs to make sure it's continuously the right fit. Also, if that team doesn't have someone who's actually collecting the money, right, from the customers that have been sold to, then there won't be longevity and sustainability in that team either. So the main players in a sales team might be, by numbers, our more blazy, but there still needs to be all areas of the square in that team. Okay, so this is where the team becomes bigger than the defined team, like on your weekly team meet. It becomes what cast is required for this team to perform brilliantly as a whole. Relationship and interaction, we've spoken of that. This is actually a nice way of looking at it indirect context of trust and flow in the profiles. So having relationships and interaction that are high in trust, that contribute to the flow of the individuals in a team and also to other teams. Mindset, yes, this is all about collaboration and having the right attitude. The rhythm, this is where we're practicing and playing and learning and growing. And measuring. So that again is the Steely part. Like, how are we going to know that we're successful? And also at what reiterations of what we're doing in the processes. You know, is this the right process, or does it need tweaking and evolving? Does it need throwing out and something else being done instead? You know, right tools. This is all characteristic. Again, if you had, you know, NASA up there in space and they didn't have the right tools, then big problems. Or maybe they had the right tools as in the right shape, but the wrong quality, right? Maybe they were subpar quality. So all these things become really critical. This is a really nice way. Look, honestly, I would say work with what feels best for you. That list of 4 that I gave you is there in the manual. This here ties together the conditions as well. So not just the characteristics, but it starts presenting it in a way that's a little more on the square as well. Just before we have a break, this is a quote from Navy SEAL, CEO of Perfect Fitness now. An unstoppable team is one that brings diverse gifts to bear on the team's goals through a shared sense of purpose and a deep commitment to each other. You can assemble as many individual superstars as you'd like, but they won't become unstoppable unless they believe in each other and in their collective mission. It's kind of nice. That's a nice quote that sums it up, right? So, tying this back to your teams, you can ask them, why are you here? What is your collective mission? What is your common goal? And we'd like to think everyone will answer that and come up with the same answer, right? This is where it gets interesting, and it might not. So some of my clients, when I start working with them and they want help with their people, everyone is busy, everyone is a wonderful human. But when we start asking questions like this, it's interesting how what the CEO thinks is the goal, what the individuals think is the goal, and what someone else who's maybe come in, and maybe it's me, who's heard about their mission, what I think their goal is, they can be 3 different things. You know, add multiple individuals into that team, you can have many different things. And yet the CEO often be like, no, we're all good. We're all on the same page. Where everyone knows what we're doing. I can't wait till you do your workshops and you can let me know, was that the case? And sometimes it will be, and others it will be, wow. Then you need to decide, do we work through that now? Or do we flag that? And that's an opportunity for you to speak with the founder or the CEO or the HR person to say, okay, these were some of the outcomes of the workshop, right? I would suggest, and your recommendations, maybe working then with individual teams or so forth. Or if you've got time, if you already know that exists, because sometimes the CEO will say they know that's the problem, then you can factor in that that's really what you're just working on that day, is to get the team aligned into their common goals and missions and what those individual roles are inside of that. Again, this comes into how you're prepping. What is the purpose of your workshop in the first place? I've had it where we've known that's the case and therefore we've designed it. I've had it where partway through a workshop that has come out very clear that it was not the case and it was a bit of a surprise. I kind of thought on my feet in that, and we parked it, and then I checked in with the owner and said, we've got a choice. We either do the rest of the day focusing on this, or we flag that this is something that you or me need to actually get everyone aligned on after today. So it depends on what your objective is there. How does this link into Roger's wealth spectrum and the green level versus the yellow level? If you remember back to Friday when we looked at what are the strategies to establish a strong level, green level enterprise, the very first one is establish your enterprise, just what I said. The second one is refine your rhythm. The third one is synchronize your steps. So the number one thing that we do in Establish Your Enterprise is define the enterprise promise. And this is where it's, why are we here? What is our mission? Okay. These are some examples. There are newer ones for sure, but these are some good ones. So Entrepreneurs Institute Enterprise Promise, the one-liner that sums up the mission. Now remember, this is Entrepreneurs Institute, which sits inside of Genius AI. Okay. So Entrepreneurs Institute holds essentially the IP and the trainings for Wealth Dynamics, Talent Dynamics, Wealth Spectrum, and all of that. So its enterprise promise is to be the number one pathway to find your flow. Okay, very different enterprise promise to Genius AI, or Genius U's enterprise promise for a long time was igniting your genius. Right, and so different ones here. Tesla, accelerating the advent of sustainable energy. The X Prize. Hands up if you have heard of the X Prize. No, some are shaking their head. The X Prize it's exactly that. It's a prize that why it was called X is because it initially didn't have somebody who was sponsoring the prize. So X marked the spot for the wealthy contributors of the prize for global changing things. So for example, there would be a prize that would go out to who could come up with a working innovation of cleaning up the oceans, cleaning up oil spills, right? And these prizes are worth millions of dollars. That one, for example, was won by some tattoo artists that deal with ink and oils and all of that all the time. And they actually got together and came up with a solution, and they won that prize. I mean, there's a whole beautiful story to the X Prize. Virgin Galactic, right? Richard Branson was approached that would he put up the prize money for the first rocket to launch and safely land. And he said, no, but I will work with the winner. And that's Virgin Galactic, right? So it was actually Ansari, I think she's a lady from the Middle East, who put up the money for that prize of who could actually launch a rocket, have it come back in without, you know, successfully without exploding, essentially. And yeah, that's exciting innovation there. So its whole why is to be a massive innovation engine, to be a facilitator of exponential change. That's why I wanted to share some of the examples of it, and a catalyst for the benefit of humanity. There's so many stories if you go on to the XPRIZE website. I can't actually get my mouse working right now. Where are we? There. So let's go XPRIZE. Let's see if it still has the same enterprise promise when we look at it. Our mission is to inspire and empower humanity to achieve breakthroughs that accelerate an abundant and equitable future for all. So, like, that's their enterprise promise now, right? Every contribution supports our mission to solve the world's biggest challenges. Our prize model reflects a commitment to evidence-based practices, significant scientific rigor and validation, and leverage of global network of experts to support it. So that's a little bit more on this is how we go about that vision, but this is the enterprise promise. So coming back to what does this mean? Why are we even talking about this? When you are working with your team, remember the team's purpose is to deliver value to the organization. So what is the value that the organization is delivering? What is the mission? What's the purpose of it? I'm going to change that actually in here. I think that should be now the new one, their latest from the website. Oh, which is not day 4, which is this. Well, that's fun. Maybe I'll do it another time when I can mess around with it. Mindvalley is another one. World School for Extraordinary Living. I'm not sure if that is still theirs, but it was at a point in time. Let's see, Mindvalley. A better you every day. Be part of the world's most powerful life transformation platform. I mean, it might just be this one now, a better you every day, right? It used to be pushing humanity forward. The idea of the enterprise promise is that it stays. You don't change it. The only time you're changing it is if the company really is taking a different path. Right? So when Roger evolved his companies through from, you know, Entrepreneurs Institute being the #1 pathway to find your flow, to then Genius U emerging as a company, and that being all about igniting your genius, to now with Genius AI, where it is very much, let's see if we can pick up Genius AI. Oh, I don't even know the website. Genius AI. What is the website, Aditi?
Geniusgroup.ai.
Geniusgroup.ai. It's a little slow today. Or it's my internet connection. We'll blame it on my internet connection. So Ignite Your Genius straight up has come across as the same enterprise promise here, right? Knowing all the things that the company is focusing on at the moment, they're probably behind the scenes updating it right this very, very second. Because I think last week, actually, when I looked at this page, it was a little different. So Ignite Your Genius. Okay. It's a slight change from igniting your genius. The Ignite Your Genius is still the enterprise promise there. So you can tie that back into, again, what is the purpose of the company? Can they succinctly express it in one line? If not, by all means, you can go through the enterprise promise as an exercise. If you've been to Wealth Dynamics Masters, you remember it's a whole session that we do and we get feedback on that. So you can absolutely bring that into play. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pause here, have a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to jump into more on the team dynamics, looking at our stable team, our ideal teams, and actually getting into the reports that you can do of a team profile. All right, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll see you back at 5:03 my time, whatever that is for you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Let's keep talking about high performance, and what we're looking at there is just previously is the rhythm of trust and flow, right? Now we want to look at the rhythm moving into ways that we can actually increase trust and flow as well. So you can do this in a moment. You can do a second part of the activity, and I'll step you through what that is. So when you're working with teams, I would normally get them to go through that. What is a high-performing team? Get their input, get their explanations, get them to be as specific as possible, then share what you see the common characteristics of a high-performing team are, create some discussions around that. Again, where do they see if this was present? Only always. What would that mean in terms of what the team is experiencing? What are they feeling? What is happening with performance? What is happening with results? So I would definitely go through that. And then if I would get them to share what they believe is their current mission. If there's any gaps there, again, you can flag to deal with that later, or you can, if you have time permitting, you can do a little exercise on that, getting them to be really clear on the promise of the company. A way to speed it up is getting the CEO to come in and give what their version is, right? And then that becomes the hook that you hang off of, well, what's the team's mission? Oh, where did my screen go? Participants can see my application, but I can't. There you go. So then we move into the primary responsibility. How do we create high-performing teams? Well, the primary responsibility of the individual is to contribute value to the team and to contribute increasing the flow of other team members, right? So we just normally start off by going through what does a stable team look like in a small company to begin with, right? And is anyone on the call not seen the stable team? I think most people have. I'm just going to my second screen. Okay, I think if you haven't, just type in the chat. But the stable team is where you have the mixture of 3 profiles that collectively can see all sides of the square. So in this example, the number 1 profile is creator, which can see across the top of the square here, all the dynamo, the product, value being shown in the company through innovation, through initiation, through the products and the services that are being delivered. And then we have the supporter profile, who can see the blaze side of the square, all the magnification side of things, whether that is team, partnerships, increasing the leverage of our distribution through those types of strategies, or whether it's enhancing a product or a service by giving the community a powerful experience to be a part of, and particularly in person. And then we have the accumulator, who actually can see across the tempo energy and also across the steel energy. So this is enabling all 4 sides of the square to do that. If you are a supporter, Belly, you're a supporter. What is your 1, 2, 3 formula?
Now that I'm looking at this, so it would be oh, is this for a creator? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so that's a creator, but what would yours as a supporter be?
Okay, it would be I thought it was a steel.
Okay, so there's a formula to it, right? So
Right.
whatever the primary profile is, that's the number 1. So this is an example of a stable team for a creator. So if this is me, my second person that I want on my team is 2 around. So we go 1, 2, which is the supporter. And then we go
Right.
3 around. So we go 1, 2, 3, which is the accumulator. For a supporter, if this is number 1 and we go 2 around, 1, 2,
A trader?
it would be a trader. And then we go
Right.
3, 1, 2, 3, and it's mechanic.
Okay.
So a supporter's ideal team is supporter, trader, mechanic. There. Zoe, you're trader / accumulator. So for this exercise, you need to pick which one you are. But let's get what your ideal team is?
你的金三角。
As a trader, is Lord and Star.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so as a trader, having that Lord energy to make sure that there's structure and there's the rules and there's all of the, finance being accounted for. And the star, because the star sits across both the dynamo and the blaze, right? Without this energy, you're very much in the activity and accountability, but not so much the connection with either the team or the customers, in that innovation way. Now, it's not always about you being in the number one, though. So, for example, many years ago, gosh, almost 10 years ago now, I worked very, very closely with a supporter profile in his business. So he was a coach, and he's a good coach, very good coach. But he didn't have his own methodology. He was always referencing other people, and he wanted his own methodology and frameworks. And like, it was seriously distressing him. And I said, I can help. And so we went out for dinner one night, and I just asked him questions. I said, just tell me, and then what? And I knew how to direct it. And by the end of the meal, I'd mapped what his overarching framework was. And so I went on for the next 18 months to build out every single content piece, workshop, webinar, worksheet, online, you name it. And so he was the number one, but he needed creator energy, right? So as that supporter, his ideal team was the trader, and that's who his executive assistant was. And then mechanic was the ideal other one, right? Except he didn't really need a mechanic at that point. He needed a product to sell. So we had to pretty quickly bring on a mechanic, but we actually went supporter, accumulator, and me in that creator. And to be fair, there was times, because I have a very strong mechanic wing, that I would be over in the mechanic role. I helped get the CRM in place, the automation for all of the things, the file structure behind the scenes, because I couldn't deal with it being chaotic. And so I was a creator that was strongly in my mechanicking wing when it came to the ops, but then I sat full blaze in that creation. So in a way, it almost was kind of my business, like, to the point at sometimes he's like, Donna, maybe I should just promote you instead of you creating the thing for me. You have the thing. Why don't I just promote you? So we worked in this combination, right? However, it was him as the number one ultimately. But I guess in that scenario, why I'm sharing it is, it was not my business. I was the driving force for the dynamo, though. And so I would basically hand it to him and he would go and deliver it. So we did have this team structure. The fact that he was the business owner, you would come up with a slightly different formula. But yes, interestingly enough, we actually had this formula at play. Hopefully that makes sense to you all, because the mission was to create, right? All right, so if you all know what positions are needed in the company, it is about building your dream team. For me, absolutely, my dream team is a supporter and accumulator. Will I hire a supporter first? No, not always. It depends. If I can step around into my star profile, then I might hire a VA. I do have a VA, but I might move them from part-time to full-time. But supporter energy is going to be what gives the leverage. That accumulator VA for me just helps keep me sane and get the creation work done. But when we're talking about leverage, that supporter profile is definitely needed. And it represents partnerships, right? It represents team and partnerships. So know what your ideal dream team is with the 1, 2, 3 formula, so that value and leverage is both being attended to. When we look at the high performing teams, I just touched on this, like personal social responsibility plus ownership of team success. Together, this is where you are using your talent to make others more successful. I mean, that's Jan's fancy way of saying, as we have said, each individual contributes to the value of the team, and each individual ensures they contribute to getting each other person in flow. The rhythm that Roger follows, the rhythm of trust and flow from a CSR all the way down to PSR. So from the corporate level, this is where you start with your enterprise promise. Why is it that we do what we do? And this is reviewed annually, but renewed almost never. It's only renewed if you are actually changing the focus and the direction of the business significantly, right? As we move around the 5 elements, so we move into what? This is the wood element and the dynamo. If you are familiar with the team charter that Roger does, you are compiling the conditions of success. So in order for us to fulfill upon our promise, what are the conditions that must be in play? And they normally cover all aspects of the Wealth Dynamics Square as well. This is where the team charter starts to get fleshed out, which is your 90-day plan. If you've been working with Michelle on the GAP program and you're doing a 90-day promotion plan, the promotion plan is what comes after the conditions of success and who is on the team. So that's the quarterly rhythm. Then we have a personal compass, which we are changing every quarter, updating every quarter, but checking in on it, so reviewing it every month. And so now we've gone company level and team level, because it's team charter, personal level. Then we move around into the tempo, which is all about projects and processes. And this is the milestones are set for monthly. So there's renewed monthly milestones, but we're reviewing it every week to make sure that we're on track. Okay, really, really important, this one, because if we just wait till the end of the month, there's a fair chance that there's 3 weeks prior that the focusing on the right things may have slipped through the cracks. So the when is very important to make sure that the commitment is kept. And if there's anything that changes, it's communicated properly. Then we move around into the how, and it's renewed weekly. You will see when Roger does the flight deck, lots of companies as well. It's like, what's the sales targets for this week? What's the production targets for this week? What is our cash flow we're expecting to collect this week? Even if you do a 13-week rolling cash flow, you're doing it week by week for 13 weeks, right? So your flight deck or your dashboards, the targets tend to be broken down on a weekly measure, but you're checking in on them daily. Again, so that you don't get to the end of the week and it's how did we go? Oh, well, we didn't hit that target. And we actually knew we weren't going to hit it on Tuesday if we'd have looked at the figures, right? So this flight deck is like the dials on your car, on the dashboard of your car, telling you whether everything is okay, whether it's full, whether it's empty, how on track you are, how high you're revving, and so forth. So I just wanted to introduce this to you. Some companies that you work with will have their own predefined rhythm that they have. I work with, some of you might know of the company BDO. It's a big accounting and advisory company. So I work with one of the senior partners here in Brisbane. They have a very precise rhythm that I cannot change. Like that would require it changing globally. So when I did a performance session with them and we spoke about rhythm, right? Because it's so important there's aspects of her leadership, there's aspects of her team performance where they needed to have better rhythm. I still showed this and I just shared it as what it means. And she was able to relate that to the things that they have. And what happened was even their own KPIs that they get very seriously performance managed on. There was some big critical KPIs in there that herself and her team only looked at like twice a year. And then there was all this, oh my gosh, like we've got 2 months left and we have to hit this target. And then there's stress, and then there's people off sick, and then there's resignations. And it's like, it was so glaringly obvious. And all I did was opened up a conversation about a rhythm, right? You can even peel back some of the detail on that. Ideally, you're working with companies that you can come and introduce this exact framework into. But if you have a big corporate where they're very, very set, you can still introduce rhythm of trust and flow and ask them, what is it that you do? We do an enterprise promise that says this is our mission. What's your version of that? We have a team charter that goes through what are our goals and objectives, what are the different initiatives and projects and promotions that we have on. How do you guys track that? Where is it visual? Where is it central that every player on the team knows where to find it? That it's the guiding document for what they should be focusing on each week. When I had that discussion in BDO for a big rollout of something nationally, they showed me the document. They're like, yeah, we have that, Donna. I said, do you mind showing me? Like there's all loops and hoops of confidentiality on it. And they showed me the document and I see now why you're not achieving. They had all the details. They had what needs to happen. They had who needs to happen. They had a decent amount of the how. What they did not have was the when. And so I said, why don't you hold each other accountable to when this is going to happen? They said, oh, because everyone's so busy and everyone's got, their commitments. And I'm like, but then you might as well start by saying, whenever you get around to it, guys, here's what we'll achieve at some point in the next year or 3. And they were like, no, this has to happen in 6 months. Like, then you have to set a when. And there has to be consequences if the when is not hit. Either that person is off the team, and you replace them with someone who can hit it. Or, first of all, let's make sure they're set up for success. So I wanted to share that with you because, again, some of you I know are going into big companies that will have their very set ways. You can still work with this by talking through the principles of each. Does anyone have questions on that or comments on that when you think about your clients that you want to work with? Feel good? I will often take some detail out of that rhythm. I might just have like the team charter and personal compass, and I'll have the words would and what, but I'll take out a lot of the other. It depends on, sometimes there's too much detail, right? But what you're getting is everything so that you can then tailor it to your audience. I think someone was going to communicate. Was that you, Bally?
I want to add that this is really powerful because what this is going to reveal are the things that they're not addressing, right? So rather than kind of sugarcoat some of that stuff, really get to the bottom of it. And so for those people who perhaps don't have their enterprise promise, that's the bit that might surface for those players moving into the performers. Those are the people I'm looking to work with more.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I work with one company that rather than 4 3-monthly quarters, they work in 3 4-monthly periods. And it's so embedded, it works for them. So I just adapt it that I'm not like, no, you must work in 4 3-monthly quarters. However, doing this as well, doing the quarterly planning and that with a South African company, they have now applied to SARS, or the South African Revenue, what is it, Ross? Revenue Service?
South African Revenue Service.
To change their company tax year, which normally ends February 28, so 1 March to February 28, to actually make it calendar year. Because I'm adaptable. We can talk March, April, May as your quarters, but everything about their rhythm of when they wanted to do their planning, even the seasons of the industry that they're in, it just worked better to be a calendar quarter. And that all came out of a discussion on the rhythm and me going, what are we going to use, calendar year or tax year, right? Because tax year means there is financial goals per year. And then if you've got to set them for the tax year and then make them different for the calendar year, and your months are wildly different, it gets tricky. In Australia, our end of year tax is June, but it's still a quarter end, right? So it's kind of easy to go, we've got a calendar. Normally it means my budgets are done for 18 months, right? So it's always picking up a full financial year. But in that one, it was a whole thing. And it just came off of one question. What quarter are we going to use? What quarter do you naturally talk about? And it brought out where they don't, right? They are busy chasing whatever is the CEO throws at them or is screaming the loudest that day. Okay, good insight. Thank you, Bella. Anyone else before I move on? Nope. Okay, go back to sharing my screen. maybe it is my internet today. I'm going to skip past that one. Okay, this is now part 2 of the exercise. So you've gone through what's high performing team. You can illustrate how the wealth dynamics square or talent dynamics square and profiles links into that by ensuring that each team has a stable team, a team at the bare minimum that has 3 profiles across it so that all aspects of the square can be visible, can be have that energy. As the team grows, you're going to have more profiles. I remember at one point in Roger's core team that I was a part of years ago, there was 8 players and there was 8 different profiles. The only double up was, well, there was 8 team plus Roger, right? And the only double up was me being a creator and Roger being a creator. So in the team of 9, there was that. It was pretty remarkable, actually. And it was like, oh yeah, this is what in sync and high performance really feels like. That was my first kind of experience of it at that level. And it wasn't necessarily, it was intentional, but I don't know if it was as intentional as the outcome was. It was pretty cool. So when you talk about that, then you can move into a discussion or an actual exercise using flip charts and walls again. Now you're moving into, well, how do we increase trust and flow in our team? And first of all, you're getting people to reflect back, either to reflect in their team, or if you're doing this in a cross-company environment, say like now, for example, you might reflect on your current team, or you might reflect on, if you're not in a team right now, when was the last time you were in a team that felt like it was in flow? And you can go, okay, who is most in flow? You know, if I think of one of the clients that I work with, I might go, okay, you know, Jamila is most in flow here. Who else is in flow? Yeah, I'm going to say Amber's pretty in flow. Definitely Matt is in flow. Now, who's least in flow? I'm going to say Sandra is least in flow. I'm going to say the CEO is least in flow. And when I look at these, it's like, her role, extremely well defined, right? Extremely well defined, onboarded with clarity of expectations and the measurement of it as well. This person here goes in and out of being in flow, extremely in flow at the moment because the focus has narrowed rather than being too broad and asking her to do things too much out of her area of expertise. Matt, absolutely get those machines working, buddy, you know, and on time and be innovative. Like, he's very clear on his role as well. Least in flow, yeah, has this one had the role that Jamila had. Now we've got a new role for her and she's still finding her feet with it. Why would I say the CEO is least in flow? Because he's still not so much his profile or position in the company, but where he's playing on the Wealth Lighthouse. He is an example of being at green level, thinking at blue, but has very few yellow level players, has a lot of orange level players. Yellow, and I would say the rest are orange, right? So he's least in flow. Now I'm bringing back the lighthouse. So you can go through and get your team, the audience to reflect on that. So what I might do is, Michael, I'm going to pick on you. If you were to repeat that exercise that I just did, where I was looking at who is most in flow, who is not, you can make it up, use your current team or use a company or a client that you know. But if you were to work through the trust exercise, do you have examples like that you can use to explain it? Who do you trust the most? And where would there be the least trust?
Or do I have the most trust with the person next to me?
Nice.
Yeah, so it must be Linda in that case. And should I explain why or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, although she has, well, I find her flow goes very easy, and I notice that with both customers and, well, things are getting with ease a step forward, solution oriented for it. So it's pretty well defined, I would say.
Nice.
Oh, I might cook you dinner for tonight, I hear.
Yeah, I would say that. And should it then drop down to the least?
Yeah.
Or?
Sure.
Okay. And then we have, I would say, Stefan, who's one of the person that delivers for us to the customers, and which is not that say attentive or moving forward. Everything that we put up or I asked him, it would be always questioned. Why would we do this? And don't see the purpose of for the company, the team, the clients. It's always something. So you need to like explain everything again over and over, even though it's well defined, and he knows this. So that's the least trust, that I can't trust that he step in and do what he needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
More
Okay.
pampering.
Yeah. All right. So we'll look at. So one thing is to go, are we clear on our expectations? Are they the right, are they the round peg in the round hole? Are they the right person in the right position? How can we set them up for success? Or is it no, time and time again, they're not delivering on something, despite their intention, that I actually just can't trust that will happen, right? I'm using that like delivery timing of something. So I know I am trusted for, I will always get something across the line. People often say you can always trust that Donna will get the project finished. That might mean I don't sleep. Sometimes it's my own, I start too late, but I will always get there, right? But they might not hold trust that it's not going to be a stressful experience if Veronica, bless her, used to be like, Donna, like I needed a week in advance. I'm like, creators don't work like that. Like you get it last minute, but I'll do my best to give it to you like half a week earlier, right? So trust again, I guess, is speculative, but you've got to come to clarity of expectations of what you are expecting, what the other person is expecting, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah, it just comes to me that, yeah, it needs to be written down for this person more detailed. Now I know he also is a Lord, so he would love getting in details exactly. When I've done that in the past, he loves when it's detailed, and he will tell me if it's slightly off when it comes to it. So
yeah,
I can
100%.
definitely understand.
If I look at friction, with whom do I have most friction? I'm going to actually say I don't feel like I have friction with others, but I know type. I'll just put SV. And who do I have least friction? I'm going to go CEO. Why is there, when I look at why is there friction? Lord profile. What happened? This person had a role. What was required from the company was beyond their capability now, and they knew it as well. So a decision was made to hire in someone new for that position. I thought that was communicated by the CEO to that person, right? It was not communicated. So when I fly 12,000 kilometers and we are, going to start interviewing people for that position, and it hasn't been communicated to this one that the final decision, there was all sorts of drama. Rightfully so, right? So I thought I'd rebuilt that. This person apologized greatly. They learnt their lesson on they should have been looped in. I learnt my lesson on don't assume that that conversation has taken place. So I thought trust was rebuilt, but it's a scar that this person has hung on to that I'm still trying to win back trust. And yet it actually was not my call. It was here, but I'm the person that it can be projected upon because I'm an agent of change. So I know, and I should have known better in hindsight. I should have known that Lord profile that I already knew was super sensitive about things and worrying about their place in the company. I know I should have stepped the CEO through the change management on that. Rookie mistake, maybe in hindsight, assuming I didn't have to. But, and again, when you're getting people to do these exercises, it's just for insight, right? It's not about who's right or wrong. It's going, is there friction there because we're just vastly different profiles and we communicate differently? Is there friction because I haven't been clear on what I expect? Is there, friction for various other reasons? And I'll show you what particular areas we look at in the PSR, in the PSR 360. We're going to teach you that after this program, right? It's going to be in the next month or two. So if we come back to the primary responsibility of an individual, add value to the team and to leverage the other team members, all in the context of trust and flow. In the PSR 360, it's a self-assessment on how much do I believe I am trusted by my team in these 5 areas of innovation, of great communication, of service to the clients, of measuring things, tracking, measuring all the stuff that I need to, and of having resilience, like when things get stressful or, the unexpected happens. How much do I believe? Now, we self-assess, and then we also have our peers assess either your up report, your down report, or on the same length. Why I want to show this is because it gives you direction, right? As to the 5 areas. So flow, how trusted are we to contribute to the flow of the team by taking initiative? Respect. So respect is not just communication, it's the way that communication is delivered. Communication might be that you're trusted to communicate the things that are necessary to the individuals in the team. Respect is and that it's done with respect. Which could also mean the timing and so forth. Like, not, well, I did communicate with you after the fact, if that's not respecting somebody's role and position in the team, right? Presence. This can be as simple as when we're having a meeting with each other, are you present? Or are you checking your phone? Are you doing emails? I mean, I just hang up on people if they do that now. Particularly if a team member has requested a meeting with me, they have requested the time, and then I show up and they are busy answering other emails and messages, I will go, I think you're too busy for this call. Reschedule when you can be fully present. Bye-bye. Because time is super valuable, right? How much do we contribute to discipline? That means, when I'm self-assessing, do I have the discipline, right? And my team are going to be going, does she have the discipline? What's our opinion on that? Perseverance as well. It's a little bit like the endurance side, similar to resilience, except perseverance is we're not going to quit. We're going to keep going. Yes, we've got resilience, but that's more in our mindset. The perseverance is not giving up too quick. So without needing to know how to facilitate a 360 feedback session right now, knowing these 5 areas of trust and flow help you come back to even this here. Why is it that I trust this person so much? Is it that I really feel like respected? Do I really feel like they will take the initiative? I know this is in the flow column, but we're still trusting people for these different traits, right, that are important to us. I remember doing this test back in, gosh, it was probably 2015 in Singapore with Roger. And so I had my own company. I also worked heavily with David in his company, the Supporter Coach, creating all of his stuff. And I'd been on like a month or 6 weeks with Roger, helping him on some projects. And I remember we did this with David. And I remember David scored me like 10 out of 10 on innovation, 10 out of 10 on initiative, which I thought was too high. I think I scored myself like 7s or 8s. But then I remember doing this again in Roger's company with the team in Singapore, and he scored me like a 4 on innovation and a 3 on initiative. And I was like gutted, because here I am thinking I'm pretty good at innovation and initiative. 2 things. I realized, you do have one of the world's biggest innovators and initiators critiquing you here. Like, there's a degree of don't take it too personal. But the other thing was, yeah, you're right. Why am I more taking the initiative and innovation with David than with Roger? And I went, that's my self-confidence issue, because David's the supporter profile. I naturally had far more confidence in my creation. I was like, here it is, go sell it. And with Roger being such a big creator, and it's his stuff he's wanting me to create, I was kind of like, oh, should I give him that? Should I not give him that? I was more passive. So it was brilliant self-awareness exercise to go, I'm not going to last here if I hold back. I need to be initiating more. And also Roger himself, right? He's like, I need to trust that Donna's going to take the initiative on things. So really, really amazing to see, where are you holding back flow? Where are others holding back flow? Where's friction? Where's trust? Use these 5 areas of each to help you compartmentalize that somewhat, right? Then when you actually learn how to do the test, it's amazing. Don't worry that you're not learning it this week, because honestly, you should not go and do a PSR 360 assessment and facilitated workshop with a company unless you've already been working with them. They have an introduction to talent dynamics already, or at the very least, you know the team has been together for at least 6 months, because it's pretty solid, the PSR workshop. I'll show you how I explain it in a moment. Let's come over to you guys. What I'd love for you to share. What did you just learn out of maybe the trust and flow, right? Bally said you're going to use that line. What line are you going to use, Bally? Don't even know what I said.
About being present. I mean, I have that as a coach, right? So that's such a big one for me, where you're having these conversations and just putting the phone down. I love it.
Yeah.
For me, what came up for me is some of the friction and some of the, when I have these type of sessions, people say the thing that other people want to hear, and that's why the 360 is going to be really powerful. So how do you kind of address some of that, the nicety and things, so that we get to hearing kind of what people really want to, being honest, right? Let's be frank. Let's say it as it is.
Well, it's designed in that way. So the self-assessment is what we think of ourselves, and then they must get 4 to 6 other people to assess. And so they end up with a score, right? So you get a report that is a visual map on how others perceive you as a leader and a team player. And they can leave comments in there, but the whole thing is a facilitated workshop, right? Let me just show you. This is how I explain it. So this is my little brochure for the PSR. So, I mean, I go, why does it matter? Because leadership is how you're experienced, not what you intend. Right? I mean, that's it. At the end of the day, to me, it's not measured by intention, it's measured by impact. I go through, like, what are the challenges? What shifts will you see? But the actual experience is about breakthrough conversations. Please don't just cut and paste my brochure, everyone. You got to just align it with what your intention of it is. Like, this is a second iteration of me. The first brochure communicated things a little different, but this is geared to my audience. But this is the biggest piece. Guided dialogue, participants reflect on their scores, right? They get this, the actual report that they get here gives you a score. I'm not sure if I can zoom in on that. Gives you your score and then other people's score, so you can compare it. And whether the comments are given anonymously or with someone's name, your job is to then facilitate the conscious conversation. Trust me, the scores do the opening. They really, really do. Sometimes, and for a myriad of reasons, some people will be so much harder on themselves than what others are, and they'll score themselves lower than what their team do. Other times it's the opposite. People will score really high and their team scores them low. And so, I mean, you go through what each of the areas mean conceptually, and then you get them to self-reflect, you get them to share where it can be. But this is why I say you don't do this with a team that you don't yet know, not to bring your biases in, but because they need to trust you, right? I think Could you do it cold? Sure. Personally, not my favorite way. I always do it after I've at least done a talent dynamics workshop and at least 6 months after working with them. The only time I would bring it up front is maybe I've worked with the CEO for some time and there's a real sense of urgency that we highlight some fundamental issues in here. And, you know, it's kind of introduced, this is Donna, this is what we've been working on, this is what we're here to achieve, right? And we're going to shake things up a little bit. Okay. Who else would like to share?
I have a question, if I may, on something that pertains to something you discussed a little bit earlier on in the session. When we chunk the work that we've got down, especially the big visions down to things that we can like revisit weekly, but review every day, for instance, and things like that. One of the experiences that I've found with that when I do that over too long a scale, for instance, if I break a yearly vision down to something that I've got to do every day, is that if I land up having a bad day for whatever reason and I don't get the tasks done for the day, then it's almost as though the stress of missing that or having to readjust the time frames almost doubles up, because I've chunked it down from something so large, I can automatically see the roll-on effect to something that's a year later. And then you sort of think, okay, so then you have to readjust the weekly things, which readjust the month, and then you can't find time for that, or you don't know what that looked like. I find that sometimes that creates a fair bit of uncertainty. Any tips for that, or anything you could
Yeah,
say
don't do
to
it.
people in the
Don't,
team?
never, ever, ever break a year's goals down into weekly or daily. It's too much. Too much. Cannot. What we break down is yearly into quarterly themes at a very top level. And then quarterly, each quarter, into a monthly. And depending on what the project is, there are some of mine I will break into the weekly tasks, never daily, weekly. There's others where it's like, no, I'm just going to take the first milestone and break those down. I do like to go the 3-month ones. It's but personally, I have the discipline on that. If I'm teaching it, I would go never ever a year into weeks. Only ever the next 90 days into weeks. And
I don't mean your vision 2 weeks. I'm talking about the same system that you're talking about. So you still have your quarterly objectives at the high level, and you break that down further. Even with that, I still sometimes find that if the rhythm is disrupted, maybe it's just my creator, my dynamo. If I have 2 or 3 days where something's interrupted the flow, that sort of gives me a certain amount of anxiety over the month-long KPIs, for instance, or what that might look like in the quarter.
I gotcha. Okay, so if you're talking in the quarter. So I mean a couple of things, right? You want to always observe, and it's also very different when it's a one-man person versus multi people in the team. You know, the size of the organization is different. How do you equate all of that? Don't overset the expectations. Don't overcommit. Something will always come up, right? So I only ever, when I plan what I think I can achieve, I will go through and trim it back and make sure it's 70%, right? But then if I was to get someone like Veronica who's worked with me for 5 years, she would probably cut it in half. She would be like, I'm not saying you can't achieve that, Donna, but I know that you will not sleep for days on end. You will probably not take a shower for days on end because you're like, I've got to get this thing done. She's like, it's not healthy, right? So my deal maker energy, Vero, she would be saying, push it out, or how about don't do some of those things, right? And then I'm like, creators will always overset. They'll think it can be done faster than what it really can. And if you've got a team, the same problem, right? So the CEO that I've been using as an example, you know, him and I said a lot of things, and he's a mechanic, I'm dynamo, and I found myself pushing his targets out and us having very healthy, fiery debates as to what the timing should be, because some of them I wanted to push faster, some I wanted to slow, and vice versa. And it really got us into the conversations of, do you have the resources to do that? So, you know, what is wishful thinking? And then when are you going down and going, in order to achieve that? Like he wanted his sales team to hit certain targets, and yet there wasn't enough people at the level to go and get the senior type of sales. We had more people underperforming in a processing department versus key account managers with the capability to get those bigger wins. And I'm like, I don't think you can do it based on the capacity that you have. So that means you need to like start hiring, right? Or change your targets. And so all those conversations come up. And at the end of the day, I'm still, you know, God's up there laughing, going, hee hee, look at your plans. You know, I'm going to throw a curveball every now and then. I'm going to share with you all tomorrow the focus and flow boards that I create for my clients, that those that have teams that work together, that they have these as visual big A2 boards that they print. You can also just have it as a document online. I'm a big lover of project management software, but sometimes it's too much detail as well. It depends what the industry is and what the projects are. So I'll share with you the boards, and it's all around the focus and flow method that I use. It keeps people on track weekly and daily, teams on track weekly and daily. It's a bit of a hybrid of Roger's and mine. Does that answer your question, Ross? Cool. Very good. We are a few minutes past the hour. So Aditi, I think Melissa will share. Can you ask Melissa to share the PDF of today's slides? In there are some additional slides that we haven't yet gone through, which is the team energy and profile. I will leave that until tomorrow. There's just a few there, but I just want to explain it with you, right? But they will be in your deck there, no problems. So that being said, let's come around to everyone and get what has been your key learning and where do you see you're going to apply these high performing teams in your business? Clara, I'm going to come to you.
Sorry, there's some noise here and I didn't hear the question.
Let's just go with what's your key learning from today?
Okay. The need to for the team to be in flow and to make sure that each person brings and helps bring in flow to the rest of the team and members of the team.
Yep, at that personal responsibility. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Clara. Kim.
我自己很喜欢那个上半段在讲那个 high performer team 的那个就是就是那个练习，就是我们的成员讨论很多关于 high performer team 的 keyword 这样子。那但是下半场的有一点听不太懂这样。
Okay, so he really likes the exercise that we did for the high performance team. we focus so many different points, and then we have the same goal. So it's really interesting. But the second part is a little bit too difficult for, so it's a bit difficult to understand what's that mean and to abstract it. So
Which bit, sorry?
那个你哪边听不懂？
就是那个 PSR 360的那一个。
PSR, yes,
Yeah.
that part.
Ken will teach you how to facilitate it. For now, just think about there's 5 areas of trust that we look at measuring, and there's 5 areas of flow. And they each relate to the 5 elements. And they help you take general comments from your participants and go, okay, that's an innovation issue, right? Or what they're saying there is not someone's not getting the job done. They're actually saying they're not even initiating it. So it just helps you categorize some very broad comments into these 5 areas.
哦，
So it's only like a clarify them, not just, define them, right?
It's what, sorry?
It's help you to clear like a divide the group,
Yeah.
not just define them.
Not to divide the group, is that what you said?
Oh, no. Divide the group like their opinion. Just the form is help you to more clearly to divide them, right? Divide.
Yeah, yes. I think we're saying the same thing, like categorize
Okay.
them. Let me just show, and I know this is in English, but this is like how I, on my brochure, say, do you have these challenges, like new ideas stalling before they gain traction? Well, that is a challenge that a company will have when initiation is not happening. Leaders are stretched thin, distracted, or not fully present. That I know because I wrote these according to the actual 5 areas of trust and flow. This one here is touching on they're not present. So I'm not saying it's the cause, I'm saying it's where where the cause is impacting, right? So the fact that they're not present, why are they not present? What can they do to be more present? Hopefully that makes sense. And I'll say what happens when they are. Well, ideas are explored and acted on with confidence. When initiation is there. This also brings up something like, I remember in the Crystal Circle team, like I had an unreasonable expectation for Rosaline, who was a trader profile, to initiate a brand new up-leveling of customer service, because she was a trader profile and was beautiful with her customer service. Where I went wrong was the initiate part. So I had to initiate it, set the big picture, then my beautiful trader profile would come in and give it thought, give it consideration, really step things through and present that this is how we up level the service. But by me just saying, can you give me your plan to upgrade customer service, means I gave no big picture. I gave no, I demanded initiation, which is the polar opposite of that profile's energy. So by understanding these better, I'm like, it doesn't mean that person has to be the one always initiating, but if not them, then who? So it was for that trader profile to also say, rather than fight and feel terrible about themselves that they can't do it, to say, Donna, can you give me a few more bullet points on what you mean? I'm like, sure, I'll do that. But if they sit for 3 months worrying that they don't know how to put it forward, I'm just thinking they don't know how to initiate, right? Or they don't care for it. But so what you're looking for is initiation in context. Can you give me some bullet points, or can you paint the bigger picture for me? For sure. Is it my responsibility to know? Yes. But it's everybody's responsibility in the team to also know their weaknesses and their strengths, right? Hopefully that clears things up there, Gina and Kin as well.
我好像可以理解了，就除了这其他4个元素以外，spirit 元素有点像是一种无论如何吧，然后一种推动所有人往前进的一个力量吗？
So except this four elements, I think the spirit element is the thing to 你说推动别人的力量，是不是？
推动所有人前进，然后还有一种无论如何。
Yeah, no matter what, you will motivate the team to move on, to get improved. He seems like get the point.
Well, because that spirit energy is why. Why are we doing this in the first place? So you're aligning them to connect with that again. Yeah, very important. Yeah. On Thursday, we're actually going, so tomorrow I'm going to take you through the 5 elements, so quite a bit. On Thursday, we're going to use the 5 elements to come back and unblock the blocks to flow that we identified last week. And I think you'll love that, Kin, in how we use the elements to see when something is stuck. I mean, it's traditional Chinese medicine. If you already know the traditional Chinese medicine, you'll nail it, right? What element do you go to in what situation? But you know, this is in the business context and in the team context, not just the body context. So it's going to be a great day on Thursday. All right. Thanks, Kin. Let's come to Stephen.
Well, hopefully this is interesting for other people as well, because I've had a very different insight to, you know, the corporate thing. You know, I did work for corporates back in the 90s and the early days and that, but in the open source world, and especially with the largest project, it's funny to see how they approach different problems like this. Like the whole reason, you know, I was the first community elected director of the Drupal Association, because people, you know, there was the echo chamber of the core that weren't listening to the what, you know, only 1% of people contribute to a project, but then there's all the users. But then you have this big play between, well, you know, the one side needs the other, you know, because it just has to work that way. So they've kind of answered a lot of problems along the way, and you know, they've got things like now they do initiatives, and like the AI initiative, which is probably the most important thing, is actually run by the guys that I subcontract to do development, who started off just doing evangelical church camping layouts, and they managed to do it in 3 days instead of 3 weeks, which the company used to take. So you never know where the key people in your organization is going to be. So it's very different than the kind of environment you're talking about now. But equally, I mean, they say with Drupal, the drop is always moving and stuff like that. It suffers until something external comes along. Like now everyone's worried about privacy and stuff like that. So actually it's got the opportunity to gain more momentum now because of this external thing, which you couldn't really control because now people are well, yes, I want to own my own data, I want to do that, but until now everyone's been using all these SaaS things and stuff like that. Anyway, but where it relates back to my work is that, yeah, so I'm taking what I saw in there, but starting from the small, and this relates back to what they call bottom-up thinking, which is what you know, a lot of autistic people and that do. You know, we notice the details and stuff, but maybe not the bigger picture, and top down, and also the way the business model works at the moment, which is top down. Like, you know, Drupal has its BDFL, benevolent dictator for life, whose quote to me was, "Loosen control, don't lose control." So you've always got like the kind of hidden hand, you know, out of 12 directors, there's 2 that are the community-led ones, but that means there's 10 that are from the industry, and you've got all these dynamics. So it's, for me, it's just ultimately interesting because you know, the way I'm doing it is really from the small up. So verticals, you know, I'm what they class as a PDA profile of autism. They call it pathological demand avoidance, but actually that's only described because of how capitalism works, and says, oh, well, you can't get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and go to fun. But yeah, I've saved taxpayers millions and millions of pounds by the work that I've done, and nobody else could have done it because they're not in that position. So we all have to work together in that thing. So I'm excited to kind
I
of bring
think
that to it.
I love that, Stephen, because, you know, I spent my life, particularly when I went from being an accountant into being a kinesiologist, avoiding identity labels, only to now like absolutely love this profiling system. Because to me, it's also to be mindful to not fall into the trap of your profile is your identity. We are multi-dimensional beings. You know, I'm a creator, but I'm also, you know, an accountant by trade, and not even the things that I do. It's like just who we are at our essence. I mean, so much of what you just said then, Stephen, I can hear. So yes, you're expressing from the autism side, and that's a dimension of you. So much of what I heard you expressing as well is from the star side. So even you're expressing about the connection of the customers, you know, the users. I can tell you're so passionate about the thing needs to be purposeful for the user, versus a creator can get trapped in just the product itself and go, the user will like it. They will enjoy it. They will find it useful. And what you're saying is
I
kind
think
of
we
like,
have a mutual friend
let's
called Roger
find
who does
out.
that. But also a key thing that maybe isn't apparent because I appear here, you know, there, but I had to sleep all weekend to get over this. The only reason I'm still alive today is because I knew my star profile and I was in flow. I can't even go out and post a letter. If I'm in a store, like I can't add 2 and 3 together because of the, you know, at rest, we take in at least 42% extra information from the world around us. So, you know, that's why I'm so keen to bring it to the bottom up thinkers, is because, you know, my 15 minutes of value, and this does go into my star as well, can produce, you know, like 15 years ago, I started that local, what is now called LocalGov Drupal, and it powers like 60 odd council websites and saves millions and millions of pounds of taxpayer money. But if I'd been anyone else doing that in the company, I would have saved my job or sold my employees time and the project wouldn't exist. And we've got to not just make accommodations for people, but give them a different, and that's what my work is. You know, it's tapping into
Yeah.
the value.
And I love that too, because from an entrepreneurial perspective, you know, as consultants, I find the SME space, the small medium enterprise space, the founders themselves are mostly focused on outcome, not output. Corporate middle management, in my perspective, I'm okay being wrong, can tend to focus on output. I'm not saying all leaders, I'm saying some level of management get caught in that capitalism. Are you working X number of hours and X number of output? At the end of the day, it's horrible. That's a horrible way, right? And it's also not honoring people's profiles, their true value. I also can be in the right environment, headspace for 20 minutes and produce something that I've struggled with trying to do for 3 or 4 weeks when the environment around me is not right. And so I think this whole system is leading towards, as much as your clients are willing to boldly step into that, being outcome versus output focused. One of the key things is truly know where an individual's strengths lie, not just in their skill set, but how their environment and how the team and how communication and everything supports them to be in that as well. I think that's pretty profound. So thanks for the insight on that from your perspective too, Stephen. Let's jump over to Michael and Linda.
Okay, thank you again for a lovely session as always. This was the hardest to what takeaways because it was a lot. To me, I think it's, first of all, I just realized, how to, all these exercises and tools that you showed works, whether we're working on a team, our own team, or, as a consultant, but as well with let's say a solo entrepreneur before they start hiring, to actually be clear on all these aspects and what things to work with before starting hiring, because that actually helps them as well. Who should I hire? All the definitions, let's say the 5 areas of trust and flow. What does that actually practically mean to my business now when I'm starting hiring? Because it makes it so much easier when hiring, when recruiting the right kind of people, so you can be clear. This is what my expectations are when you start in this team, not just working with the team when they already exist. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah.
And what also helped me a lot was that finally, the rhythm of trust and flow, how it actually relates, and how I can communicate and explain how it relates to the different planning and following up tools like the team charter and the promo plan. And it's like, so kind of check on that one, how it can relate, how I explain it. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you for today.
You're welcome. Michael.
Yeah, it was a great session as always, and always bringing up a lot of thoughts on how to tweak things or to understand it. And one of the things where we started with the high performance team, how to facilitate it and pretty much pick out, do we have the same lingo? Do we have the same understanding when we say something? And that is kind of the core base of a business, and that is to be a high performance. We're understanding what level does the team play at, and do I have that position? Do I have that, have what it takes to be? If I do the analogy with football, because it's the same thing when it comes to the business, to get everybody engaged in that way. So I think it's a great way how to present this for an organization as well. And that's definitely something to use forward. I love using these kind of tools. And also we're tapping into the flow, trust, and friction, as you pointed out, and do it. That we go, especially do it myself, just to put out some names to see it, because it always comes back to what do I make different? Because it's so easy. You shouldn't just blame other people. It always come back, what could I do different? So
Yeah.
I need to own that space. And when I can do it, I can also present it to, a team or organization, to what do we do? When do I introduce that? to them. So they need to be familiar with each other. As you said, at least work with each other for 6 months. I think that's great as a minimum, to understand that people can open up, because it's going to create discussions, and I want it to be a friendly way. So they need to also relate to their profiles. So always coming back to the profile, everybody's different, and we do approach them differently. That's also why I think it's so good with the cards. If I'm as a mechanic, I'm talking to a supporter, for example, what do I say and what words do I don't use? And the same thing. So that's another level for them to understand that is so important when we communicate. I'm communicating from me, but it's really about who am I communicating to, what
Yeah.
language do they speak. So I think it's
Yeah.
good to relate
And
that.
also the timing of it, Michael. I was referring to that account, the finance manager who wasn't told. I mean, some profiles would be like, great, yeah, sure, it's what we spoke about. But she was a Lord profile who was like, I would have preferred if you'd have emailed me the copy. I had time to review it and I had time to consider this, right? So each profile has a different sense of what is respectful in timing and communication and things like that as well, which is where those dimensions of trust and flow really start. I think you'll love them when you start working with them more.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you. Grace, over to you.
我已经在想，就是要如何应用在我的团队里面，就是因为他刚好有说，就是说这个一个专案的计划大概是1个季度嘛，然后现在刚好是9月到12月，我觉得是一个非常可以来试 run 他所谓的这个原型的状态跟专案流程，就是我们这一次上课的内容，我觉得刚好是那个我们顺流支付的那个黄道绿的那个系统，我们可以就是在学的当下立刻把它全部的实际的架构出来，在我们团队应用出来，这样。
She started to think about how it's going to use this strategy and all the course skill into her group, because it's September right now, right? It's like just right a quarter to to see is that work and how we're going to structure our course into our team. So it's a good opportunity to do that.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you. And just on a note on introducing this, I'm always learning every client I do it with. One client, the feedback that came from, one person that then rallied everyone else together was the fact that we were even doing on something on high performing teams meant that the CEO and myself thought they were underperforming. And then they took it even further. Well, because that was a truth. I do think they're underperforming. But they were really taking it like, therefore you think we are not good humans. So the sensitivity of this exercise as well, right? I kind of, when I thought we'd positioned it right, but they were extremely sensitive. I might say there's a lot of daddy issues in the team to the CEO, but they were still extremely, extremely sensitive to what the boss thought of them, and they would take it. So I just really learned to position things a little differently. And I think the way that we are asking people to define what a high-performing team is then the first step that they can look at. Do we have all of those things? So they are self-realizing through the process where there is room for improvement, right? You're not coming in saying da da, but you can then weave in saying, yeah, I think an example, who would agree we constantly don't deliver on what we say some of the big projects are going to be. We do that, right? And I can see now it's because maybe we haven't got the rhythm right, or we're missing this key person on the team that is actually going to hold us a little bit more accountable to each other and to ourselves. So you're introducing like a common language to then solve the problems rather than, yeah, you're not performing, you know, and it being very projective and very personal. So Grace, in introducing it, just be mindful, how are people going to receive it, right? And just what little feelers do we need to have there to make sure it's seen as a positive thing, opportunity for growth.
You.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Zoe, what's been your key learning?
我觉得今天我们在定义高绩效团队那一趴是最有收获的，然后也会回看我们自己的团队，看起来我们也是在往这个发展的路上。那还有就是刚刚对于 trust 跟 flow 的部分，因为 King 的提问，我觉得我也有更清楚跟理解。那我比较好奇是 PSR 这个系统是它的 manual 是它之后会指导我们，还是它只是否另一个 workshop 在用的？
Okay, so her biggest takeaway today is when we discuss about the high performing team that kind of different points, and she look back to her own team and see how many they match, and then how can we get improved. That's the biggest takeaway today. And also in the trust and the flow, she has a 你说 trust and flow 你怎样？
就是我本来跟 King 有同样的疑惑，但是刚刚有解答了。
In trust and flow, she has the same issue like Kim, but you just answer the issue, so it's okay. And she has another question like a PSR 360. That is another manual or is it another workshop you are going to direct us?
Yeah.
Or
We'll do a masterclass on it. It's best to have like a solid 90 minutes on how to facilitate that. So we'll do that after the course, because then you just will have more insight into the 5 elements and trust and flow. It's too much to go through it right now. Just want to introduce it now, but we'll actually do a whole training on that for you and show you how to initiate the tests and so forth. Yep.
okay,
Thank you.
thank
Pleasure.
you.
Ross.
Yeah, thank you. One of the big takeaways for me from this is just a reminder of that principle to slow down to speed up. And I think PC as a whole, when you're hosting workshops like this with a team, it might give them the opportunity to slow down, get out of their usual rhythms, all the rest of it, actually take the time that is necessary to make sure that everyone is understanding what everyone else is saying, on the same page of the projects, company mission, values, etc. And then once that's done, they can then accelerate a lot faster than they would have done otherwise. And that also then means managing the pace and flow of the facilitation part as well. So just being mindful of the pace and acceleration with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you got to feel the temperature with each group, right? Awesome. Bally.
Just going to add to Ross's, this has been fantastic. And, you know, if that slowing down isn't done, people will enthusiastically be going in the wrong direction. It feels like they're going in the right direction, but they're not. They're all doing that. This has been fantastic. I've really appreciated it. There's so much to unpick as my brain goes in that direction. And I've been working with I've done a lot of training in the past, but the subjective view of things opens up a lot, right? And so clarity on that, and how Michael's take was also one of those aha moments of where he's got someone that he might be saying that he's having to repeat, and then clearly having that as a SOP would be helpful, right? So that was enlightening. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And remember, the power is also in the simplicity of this. What makes the talent dynamic system different is it's not 100% intellectual model. It's a feeling model. Yeah, you feel flow. You don't explain flow, you feel flow. And at the end of the day, the high performance is a team in flow. They're highly trusted, of course, but it's like high performance is a team in flow. And so what does that feel like? You know, don't fall into the trap of over intellectualizing, because people will often want to engage in that. You want to illustrate the concept, but then take people back into, what does that feel like? What does it feel like when you feel respected? What things are happening when that? Well, they're telling me on time, or I can tell someone is looking at me. And these are some of the things we do in the PSR as well. Okay. Clara, you had a question. Is it a quick one?
Yeah. Procrastination. How does procrastination hinder of flow? Because both my son-in-law and my husband are both lords. Ray, if he has something to do, get on and do it immediately. Pedro will procrastinate 1 minute task that will just be pushing a button. It said, "Oh,
Yeah.
I have to push that button. Oh, I'll do it." And then
What profile is he?
Sorry?
What profile is he?
Lord as well. So he's a
Lord as
computer
well.
programmer.
Okay. Yeah, look.
So it's completely different.
Yeah.
Same profile, but completely different.
Yeah. So according to Chinese medicine, procrastination sits in the metal element. So when metal is out of balance, procrastination, laziness, things like that, versus the opposite is commitment, determination, focus, follow through. It's the home of Nike, just do it. So when is it a trait that's just not strong for that profile, versus when is it maybe a maturity? Because the other strong metal words are responsibility. As we mature, sometimes we go, it is my responsibility to do that, right? Or I can, by choice, take part in that. So procrastination itself, if we come back to why is it important? Well, it's not because mum is telling you what to do. It's because I am a part of this family and I contribute. Yeah. Or, maybe it's don't ever ask them to do that. Find someone else who can, but they have strengths elsewhere. Yeah. We could talk about this forever, because there's also, you can't change people. People will be who they will be. But what you can do is provide opportunities for us all, if we're in a family unit or a business unit or friendship, we can be our own best versions of our conscious self that provides opportunities for others to also be their best self. And if we go hand on heart, I've shown up, I've expressed, I've detached, I've like tried, and that just is who they are. Can I love them anyway? And I've given up trying to get my niece to not procrastinate on things. Now I do go, if you want me to pick you up and take you to work and you are late and I have a meeting at 10 that I can't be late for, I will now leave you. Previously, I would take on the responsibility of waiting for her, getting her to work on time, and then me being late. Now I'm like, no more. I've tried, darling, and I love you, but I will actually just drive off and leave you. So be on time. And I'm sure parents who have kids of 20 plus years have far more stories than me. So thank you, everyone. I will see you tomorrow. When you get the email, have a look over the slides as a refresh. We'll go into team dynamics. We're going to go into the 5 elements tomorrow. Lots of fun. You're going to be practicing unblocking blocks to flow with those elements very soon too. See you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye.